Mic check.
Mic check. Mic check.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and welcome to a special meeting of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. We're meeting this morning for the appointment of the Maricopa County Sheriff. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, good morning. We have Supervisor Hickman.
Here.
Supervisor Gates.
Here.
Vice Chair Galvin.
Here.
Supervisor Gallardo.
Here.
And Chairman Sellers.
Here. Okay, we did interview 3 candidates. I would entertain any comments or a motion from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I want to make a brief comment and I'm going to make a motion. First of all, this has been a very intense but very important process. Law enforcement is very important to me. It's very important to all 5 of us, and we took this process very serious. There are a couple of statutory mandates that are required of us, and we follow those. I think I speak for all of us when I say express appreciation for all 8 people who applied to serve. All of them are very qualified, and we're grateful for their service and dedication to law enforcement. I want to particularly point out the 3 applicants who made the final round and came in for interviews. All 3 interviews were vastly enlightening and important, and I think one candidate has stood out, and for me, it's a person who's provided decades of experience in Maricopa County and will serve all of us, Democrat, Republican, Independent, and treat all of the constituents of Maricopa County with respect. Mr. Chairman, I'm proud to make a motion to approve Russ Skinner for Sheriff of Maricopa County.
Thank you. And before I go to a second, I would like to acknowledge the other electeds in the audience. Thank you for being here. Assessor Eddie Cook and Recorder Stephen Richer. Thank you for being here.
Mr. Chair, I would second that motion, and if I may make a brief comment as well.
Please.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, would echo all the comments of Supervisor Galvin, Vice Chair Galvin. Mr. Chair, thanks for your leadership on this. This is one of the most important responsibilities of this board is to fill vacancies in any offices, but particularly in this office of sheriff. I would say that this board took this responsibility very seriously and was very impressed by the folks who applied for this position. But for me, I will be voting in favor of this motion, appointing Russ Skinner as our new sheriff, because this is such a critical time for Maricopa County. And number one, the growth of this county is well known. We continue to be the fastest growing county in this country for many years, and that puts additional burdens on our sheriff's department to provide great service and protection for the citizens of Maricopa County. Secondly, in these times, we know that there's great attention on the elections that occur in 2024, and I believe that Russ Skinner and his team will be well positioned to protect the voters, the polling places, and the election workers in the upcoming elections here in 2024. And finally, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office has been saddled with the Melendres lawsuit for many years. Now, the taxpayers of Maricopa County have been responsible for over $250 million in costs over the past few years, and I believe that Russ Skinner will be in a great position to help us move forward beyond Melendres. So for those reasons, I will be supporting Russ Skinner as our new sheriff. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Hickman.
Mr. Chairman, before you take the vote, I will be also in support of Deputy Skinner. Chief Deputy Skinner. I've known Russ for almost the entire time I've been here as a supervisor for more years than I'd kind of like to remember, but very, very happy that he has decided to make the sacrifice to put his name out there in front of a community. It's tough. It's tough on families, but he's willing to make that sacrifice. I thought long and hard about this because I think the chief deputy has all of the statutory authority that a sheriff would bring. But that would mean we would hold this sheriff job open if we just let Russ serve in the traditional capacity, Russ is taking a pay cut, and he wants to do that willingly. He wants to step into the breach of public service, and I applaud him for it. Law enforcement should know nothing about, as we say time and time again, chiefs of police are appointed in the charter government. But here, with our constitutional duties, and the sheriff is a publicly elected official. So I want to thank him for coming and seeing this and representing and wanting to represent the sheriff's office in this capacity. And that's a major reason why I'm supporting him, of the sacrifice he's willing to take on himself. And one of the other key components is this gives him a chance to also pick a chief deputy that can help him with the leadership, and it will be able to give him a little bit more time to affect the changes that we would like to see in Maricopa County, and to support our community.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Gallardo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, thank you for your work in putting this process together. This is when you have these types of appointments, I think we've all been doing legislative, and we do JPs and as well as county-wides. They're not easy processes. We have good candidates that step up. No different in this particular process. We had 8 well-qualified candidates that stepped up and submitted their applications, their resumes to be considered. I think it was unanimous that the 3 that rose to the top, we had an opportunity to interview and ask questions. Any of these 3 candidates, I believe, could have stepped in and ran what is the 4th largest sheriff's office in the country. No doubt, I've always said this, and I think we all agree that the sheriff's office is very, very important. And you look at the history on where this sheriff's office has been. In 2016, the voters of Maricopa County elected a Democrat, Paul Penzone, in a direct response to the tactics of Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Let's be honest, those are the facts. It was overwhelmingly, I would venture out to say that Republicans, Democrats, and Independents decided they wanted a change here in Maricopa County. With that said, I do want to also thank Paul Penzone for his service here in Maricopa County. He was elected by the people of Maricopa County to perform a task to really rebuild that image, rebuild that community trust. We have seen everything that has gone on with the federal court and Melendrez, as stated, but there's a lot of work still to be done. But I do want to thank Penzone for all the hard work he has done in the sheriff's office. When it comes to Chief Deputy Skinner, I congratulate him on this nomination. However, I will not be supporting this nomination. I do look forward to working, if the votes go that way, which I think it will. I look forward to working with Chief Skinner to really build the trust with the community. There's a trust factor. I'm being honest. There's a trust factor that needs to be dealt with. Concrete steps in building that trust, way more than just an advisory board, but really setting up concrete steps in order to build the trust with the community and the sheriff's office. So with that, I look forward to working with Chief Skinner as we continue to repair the damages Sheriff Joe Arpaio and his legacy, unfortunately, that really remains right now within Maricopa County. We need to work to build those trusts, erase that legacy, and have the sheriff's office with the utmost confidence and trust that we all know can get there. But it can only be done by working together and working with the entire community. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the motion. However, I will not be supporting it.
Thank you, Supervisor Gallardo. And I want to also thank Russ Skinner for being willing to to do this for our community. And I do want to mention that, one of the things that has been discussed a lot is the Democrat. We had to replace the sheriff with a Democrat, and a lot of discussion around party affiliation and people changing parties to be eligible. In my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of the people I talk to, law enforcement should not be a partisan political position. And so we as a group really discounted that and looked to find who is absolutely the best candidate to run the county sheriff's office during what could be a very contentious year. We're going to be running 3 elections this year. We need someone who has the respect of the people in the county sheriff's office and also the respect of the other law enforcement agencies in Maricopa County. And Deputy Chief Skinner meets that qualification. So with that, I call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're going to take a brief recess. And then we'll have a press conference. I will not adjourn the meeting until after the press conference. So thank you. We're taking a brief recess.
You don't hear it? Mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4. You hear it? Okay. Mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, Judge. Please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Russell Skinner, do solemnly swear
I, Russell Skinner, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Arizona,
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will defend them against all enemies, foreign or domestic,
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
my duties as Sheriff of Maricopa County
my duties as Sheriff of Maricopa County
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Congrats, Sheriff. Thanks for all the My turn to speak at this point?
Yeah. Joe?
Chairman, did you want to?
Pardon? Okay.
Do you want to do it here?
Okay, I would like to now resume the meeting of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay? Good afternoon. I'd like to, first of all, thank the chairman and the board for entrusting me to take on the fourth largest county sheriff's office in the United States. I don't even have words to express how much that means to me. I'd also like to thank my family for the continued support and dedication and sacrifices that they've made for the almost 34 years I've been with this office. As a second generation deputy sheriff with Maricopa County, this agency means a lot to me. This is almost my whole life has been working for Maricopa County, and even so, Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and serving this community. And for me, this day, I would have never, ever imagined this happening. Starting out as a young deputy out in the Southwest Valley to be sheriff of Maricopa County, that's pretty amazing. So I apologize that maybe I'm a little emotional right now, maybe not find all the right words, but the other important people I want to thank is the team of men and women with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, because they're also my family. They're my support. I heard from many of them that gave me the direction, the guidance, and the courage to go through this process. It was very hard when Sheriff Penzone said, "Hey, I'm not going to run next year." I thought, "Oh, no problem. You know, we've got a few more months left with this, almost a full year. And yes, I'm leaving in January." So a lot has changed over the last few months, and I do thank him for the opportunity for me to be positioned to even think about taking on this role. And I look forward to serving the community, working with the board, working with the county partnership. I've got a lot of good people out there, and I've learned a lot about their different departments and the needs. Maricopa County back in 1990 is a lot different than it is today. And we have a lot of challenges that we face: the environment, the political makeup, and as stated before, I am bipartisan in the sense that I'm a law enforcement professional, and I will do what it needs to be done to uphold the law, uphold the Constitution, and make sure that we keep Maricopa County safe and moving forward. I ask, though, that the community help us, because we need that. We're all partners in this. This is our area. This is our area that we live in, that we work in, that we play in. And I just ask that everybody continues to have respect for each other, and that we work together to get through this year. We have challenges. Right now, the Waste Management Open's going. A lot of people in town. We have a Final Four coming up, a couple NASCAR events. Thank goodness we don't have the Super Bowl. I know this isn't as big as maybe Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift showing up, but hopefully it makes the news at some point. But also the biggest thing that I look at is this election cycle. I watched a board meeting yesterday, and I saw some unruliness there from the crowd. That's unacceptable. Let's respect each other. You know what? We have to get through this. We have to move forward, and we have to get past the anger, the separation, and the polarization. So I ask that everybody help us, and I will work with you through this. And let's have a safe 2024, and we'll see what the road brings ahead and the trail that we wind up going down. So thank you all. Thank you again to the board chairman. The kind words. I really, this agency means so much to me. It's my life, and I look forward to hopefully serving our staff to the best of my abilities and serving this community to the best of my abilities. So thank you all for entrusting in me to take on those reins, and I hope I can continue the path forward and look forward to working with everybody. Thanks.
Okay, at this point, we would entertain any questions from the press for any one of us. Yes.
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Dana. One thing I would say to that is, number one, anybody that knows me knows I'm not a political individual. I've never been a political individual. I'm apolitical, if you want to call it that. I don't think there's a place in law enforcement for that. I don't actively participate in political activities. And I will say, instead of going out there and making statements of assumptions or maybe just premise what they feel, maybe ask me why I did what I did and what for. In this case, and I'm happy to go a little more in detail on that, on October 2nd, I believe it was, Paul Penzone called me in his office about 20 minutes before he delivered a speech to our executive team and then had the media lined up to make his announcement about how he was going to not run and secondly leave in January. And knowing that this was happening, I'm in the drop, I'm close to retirement, maybe some bricks would come off my shoulders. I could leave at that point. So he made that announcement, and I watched our executive team look in uncertainty. My phone blew up being a county employee for 33 years of what's next for the sheriff's office? Who's going to take the reins? What's this mean for us? I talked to my family at length that night. And although I could have just walked away, collected my pension, and moved on with my life, I decided to take on the challenge to say, you know what? I want to keep certainty with this agency, especially with an election cycle coming up, major events coming up, and to keep continuity with the agency and put the employees' minds at ease, as well as the community's minds at ease. Because we don't know what that person or who that person would be and what their maybe mission or goal would be. If I can at least maintain 10 more months of moving in the right direction with the sheriff's office, compliance measures, enforcement operations, safe and secure communities, fentanyl issues in our jails, suicides in our jails, mental illness, and help with the election cycle and keeping it safe and secure, then you know what? I saddled up for 10 more months to do that. And the only way that I could even remotely think about that was to align. And within 24 hours, I was on the recorder's website, changing from a Democrat or from a Republican to a Democrat. And despite that attorney that said, oh, well, they can just switch right back and run, I have no intention of switching back. My predecessor was a Democrat. The Democrats voted Paul Penzone in office. And Paul Penzone was also, if you look into it, was a Republican back in the day prior to that. This has been done. This isn't something that is hoodwinking the system or gaming the system. But I'm committed to continuing out the rest of his term as a Democrat because that's what the people wanted. Because again, I'm not political and I'm not looking for that. So hopefully that gave you maybe a little more detail than you were looking for. But thanks for asking is what I say to you on that. Because again, I saw some statements made, but do you know me and give me the opportunity? All I ask is give me the opportunity to ask me the question and hear my story, and then you can report all you want. Thank you.
Well, and let me just add that our board felt that it was really critical. You know, the other candidates that we interviewed are very capable, knowledgeable law enforcement people. But in the short amount of time we have for the remainder of this year, we really could not afford to have someone who had to gain the respect and learn the system. We needed someone that could step in on day one and have all of those things so that we can really ensure that everyone in our community stays safe through this, what could be a very contentious year. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. If I would just ask if you could give me a few days to digest this. This is a pretty big thing for me and my family. Obviously, moving forward, I've also been saddling two positions, a chief deputy and a sheriff's position, for a few months, a few weeks now. So I look forward to speaking to the media. Maybe next week. We've got a wonderful PIO staff, media staff. I think a lot of them you've worked with before. We will start coordinating that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I knew that question would come up, right? As I said before, I'm not really a politician. Those are very, very uncharted waters for me. Kind of scares me to death a little bit, I'll just say that. But I have not put it out as I would not. I need to talk to my family a little more in detail. Some of the challenges I have personally is, again, I'm very attached to the agency. I'm very mindful of the agency, knowing that there's a lot of challenges and issues and just the day-to-day operations, to try to look at work-life balance and just balance of between what I'm doing now and having a moment to breathe, and then add a campaign cycle on top of that. I have to weigh those options, but I'm not saying that I'm not running, but I'm not saying that I am. And really, officially, I couldn't say anything anyways because I was a merited employee. So until I signed the paperwork, it'd be a violation of policy, and I don't want to wind up in a IA investigation. So at this point, not yet. You know, I'm glad you asked that. Absolutely. And I don't think necessarily, I think there's a lot of law enforcement agencies and just government entities that have those type of issues, especially law enforcement. Obviously, the sheriff's office has a stain on it from years ago. We have been working immensely with the community out there. I can tell you as a DARE officer back in the day in Guadalupe, and working those areas and working different dynamics within our community, we are committed to gaining that trust and transparency. And I think a lot of that starts right here with communication and transparency. What you get with me is I will communicate. I will be transparent. My door is open. There was a group that actually was at one of Sheriff Penzone's going away party that was very grateful for him opening up the doors to their community. And their fear was, okay, well, who's walking in? Are they going to close the door? And I took the opportunity to tell them, no, that door will remain open to any community, to any of our constituents out there, any of our people that we serve in any role, and we'll keep that door open, and they're allowed to walk in that door because they're part of what makes us operate. They're part of us being successful in helping with crime, helping with the mental issues out there, the fentanyl issues. We have to do this together. We can't be polarized or we can't shut people out. So with me, you get transparency and openness, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. That expectation is set high. It has been in our agency. Obviously, we have a lot of policies, federal court orders that require their transparency and their ability to do that. And if there's misconduct or if they go against that grain, then we will hold them accountable for it. We have a very robust complaint system that developed out of the court order, policies that are in place, and if a community member has an issue, community member feels like they were not treated fairly or that there was misconduct, there is a system in place, and I will say probably one of the most robust systems in law enforcement across the country of getting to that root and making sure that we take care of it and hold them accountable for it. Prior to that.
Are there any sort of hallmarks of that we bring back? Just get it on the record on your stance on you're not going to bring back pink underwear.
No, there will be no tents and there will be no pink underwear on the record. I'm glad you asked that. Obviously, I actually came in under Agnos, so I think a lot of people focus because there is a lot. He had a long term. You know, Cal Boyce, I think before that was 22 and a half years, which, by the way, Cal Boyce was the last appointed sheriff in 1946. I just want to give a little bit of history to that. So that's why this board had a tough task. It's been a few years. Back to the reforms that are going on. If you look at my history in October of 2013, I was the first lieutenant sent down to help implement the federal court order. I was one of the first employees with the office that had to deliver that, basically line by line, what the order meant, what they have to do, and how to get there with compliance. I helped work with a monitor team the day that they showed up, ACLU and the DOJ. I've been committed to the court order and the reforms that are needed to it. So I guess one thing you get with me is there is historical and institutional knowledge relative to what reforms the agency needs to do and the correspondence and communication that needs to happen. We're not flipping back time, we're being progressive. Just like I said, Maricopa County in 1990 is much different than it is today. So is the sheriff's office. And we have made inroads, and I do give a lot of accolades to Sheriff Penzone with a lot of the reforms that he made and direction and accountability. But I'm not Sheriff Penzone. You're right in that. I've worked for 3 different sheriffs. I'm Russ Skinner, and I'm here to tell you that I am committed to being a professional law enforcement official that holds their people accountable, that we do constitutional policing, and we move in the right direction to work with our community.
Yeah, let me just interject here for a minute to give you some perspective of what our board had to consider when we were looking at filling this position. Maricopa County Sheriff's Office has 4,000 employees and a $500 million budget. So it's a huge job. And so particularly for the year that we're looking at right now, can you really afford to have someone that's learning the system for a few months rather than step in and being able to take over the job immediately?
I would say probably not this year. Obviously, that sometimes isn't up to us. It's up to a federal judge and a monitoring team and 2 parties, ACLU and DOJ. We have to work cooperatively to accomplish that. You know, if you look at court orders and consent decrees, those aren't things that, you know, get taken care of overnight. Obviously, Phoenix PD is dealing with a lot of the front end of that. I can't give you an estimate of when that'll happen. All I can tell you is that the agency will progressively and continually and aggressively work towards the compliance efforts relative to that and make sure that we're doing the right thing to move it forward. Yeah, actually several things. First of all, I talked about respect. Let's make sure that as community members, as everybody out there, let's respect each other, stay safe, and if you see something, let us know. Let law enforcement know. And it isn't just the sheriff's office that's involved in this. We are really, it's a regional. I want to say last year we geared up for Super Bowl. Well, our Super Bowl this year is the election campaign or the election process. We are having planning meetings. Our ACTIC, which has multi-agencies, even on the federal level, are continuing to move that forward, and we will continue communicating our partners. We've had a lot of conversations with the Board of Supervisors, the Recorder's Office. We're all working together to make sure we maintain that safety level, and that's what I ask from everybody is just please let us know and please be a part of it. Don't, you know, again, there's difference between First Amendment and then also committing a crime, so. Yeah, you get asked that a lot. It's kind of like an oral board question. What's the biggest challenge that law enforcement faces? And when you go say it's the biggest challenge, I think that means there's focus on one thing. As the chairman stated, the sheriff's office is a very large organization, almost 4,000 employees, $500 million budget. we have several issues. Some of the challenges I'll just throw out, obviously, and we're not unique, is recruitment, retention, safety issues with the elections, making sure that any elections cycle, but also those major events coming to the valley are taken care of. We provide the safety of the community. We have fentanyl issues throughout our patrol area. And, we have 4,000 or 7,000 inmates on an average daily population that we have to give care and custody to. Mental illness issues, police officers, law enforcement, deputy sheriffs, our detention officers, all wearing different hats these days than just one. And so I look at it as all of those are equally important, and we're going to drive that forward to try to take on those challenges and make inroads and hopefully progress.
Let's take one more question, if there is one. And if you have any questions for the board members, please let us know.
If no one else has another question, I'll ask one more.
Okay.
You had this unique perspective of being a sergeant and lieutenant during Sheriff Arpaio's entire career. It continues to influence how this office is run today. What was your opinion about the court's decision on Sheriff Arpaio's civil case? Did you agree with it? And what do you take away as seeing him in his position?
So I don't necessarily say I have an opinion. I didn't even really know about the court order, I'll be honest with you. In the organization, I was a Lake Patrol lieutenant at the time that the court order was served on the office. And I really learned about what happened through that court order and researching it. So all I could say is absolutely the office has had a lot of challenge with what we had to do, the reform process and the time that it took. Our court order had 90-day restrictions to get training and policy. A lot of the consent decrees gave a year or two. We had to cover a lot of ground very quickly. I'm not here to pick about, everybody's individualized as they run an agency and their thoughts. I was an employee at the time. I did my job. I did it ethically. I did it morally sound, and I will continue to do that. As far as me comparing to other ones, I think I even had that question at once. I think one of the newspapers put out that I was an Arpaio loyalist. I don't think that's a fair statement. I was an employee of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. I served the Sheriff's Office. My dad was an employee with the Sheriff's Office back in Jerry Hill days. The figurehead and what you are as an employee, I don't think should be a true reflection of you personally. We're all individualized, and I think that's a hard label to take on, and I don't think we form opinions about that because that was our boss. Everybody has their pros and cons, and at the end of the day, after this 10-month, maybe longer run, if I decide to, you'll have an opinion of me too, and maybe I hope that doesn't paint the broad brush for our employees of the office, though, is all I ask.
Well, thank you all for being here this morning. I think by now it should be clear to you why we made the decision we did. I'm excited to have Sheriff Skinner as a part of our organization. So congratulations again. The meeting is now adjourned.